Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today the video is a bit different because I want to show a bit of an explanation. It's not really a tutorial video, it's more like an in-depth explanation of some stuff that I have been referring to in other videos. In this specific case it's about bump maps, normal maps, textures and UV maps. So this video shows this in bigger detail. For an explanation, you probably have heard of textures in video games, which is a 2D image that is then translated onto a 3D object. And what we need first for this is what I'm currently working on, a UV map, which is basically a translation of the 3D object into a 2D space. The line art on the right side of the monitor is the actually UV view of Hexagon. The UV map is what I'm working on, which, as I said, is a translation of the object into a 2D space. You can see that I'm using the 3D view to mark different lines in this case. You can also mark points, you can also mark faces, it doesn't really matter that much. And you can see that I'm realigning them on the right side. Basically what I'm doing is I am clearing up this UV map, which takes a lot of time. There's a few tools that you can use that help you. There's a soften UV tool, which I don't really use because it usually doesn't do what I want it to do, but it can help. In this case it wouldn't have helped anyway, but it exists. I hope that at some point a general AI would be good enough to actually put in the object or the UV of the object and it gives me a viable UV map, but as far as I know, I do not have that yet. There is an algorithm behind it, so it kind of works, but it's not really perfect. If you go back a bit, you can see how the current algorithm is actually giving me the UV map of this thing, and that I have to just edit it completely. Anyway, you can see that I'm aligning on the content on the right side, but on the left side, on the 3D object, doesn't change. So what I'm really just changing is how later on any PNG on any image that I want to throw on it will get edited. So basically what it says is these pixels refer to these parts of the object, and everything that is within these pixels in the 2D image will then be represented on the 3D object in the same area that is marked. Yeah, clearing up this map took me about an hour, so actually making the object was really quickly. At least the first part. There's a second part where I just do all the ornaments, which I didn't use or didn't need for this one because I wanted to just show how it works, show the difference in between actually molding, designing and structuring the object as a 3D object and the difference to a UV map, which I don't want to say UV maps don't work or UV maps are worse. Absolutely not. If you can utilize a UV map, if you are able to draw a good bump map, a good normal map, absolutely fine, absolutely amazing. To explain, normal maps and bump maps basically create the illusion of depth. You will see this later in the video when I actually create a bump map and a normal map for this very object. You can see that I now have translated the whole thing into a 2D object. I translated the form into a 2D object so I can actually paint on it. I'm using Gimp basically because Photoshop is just too expensive in my opinion. I just don't think I want to use it. I'm creating a new 2000 by 2000 image here, and you can see that I copy pasted the line art as a path, so I can scale this. And now that is scaled to the actual picture, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark all the parts that I actually want to draw on. Could have done this before, but I didn't, because I wanted to have a clearer mark of the actual line art. And yeah, I'm using a graphic tablet that I own to draw this. It's not really that complex, not really that long. I did this very quickly, throwing on a few filters to create the illusion of changing depth before I draw this or redraw this on a second plane. So I just have a better line art, and you will see why I'm doing this, because you can then see it better in the final piece. What I actually did, or what I actually forgot, is that I should, or that I need a background for this. I need a white background and a black foreground, because, or this is what I usually use, because the normal map, the bump map, the bump map is just a translation of whites and blacks, or yeah, of intensity of the colors, which translate to depth. Basically, the blacker a spot is, the deeper it is etched into the object, and if it is white, it is further out of the object. You can see I'm having this into Jazz Studio here, applying some very basic shades, and you can see what happens is that I just forgot to put on the background, the white background, so I'm just doing this now. Minor setback, minor mistake that I did. By the way, I'm using a filter to create the normal map, which is the bluish one, and you can now see that the object actually has this illusion of depth. It's not very good. It's definitely not very good, because this is just something that I wanted to show, but this is what you can actually do with bump maps, and this is why, if you work on this and if you want to do this a little bit more in depth and detail, you should, if you have the time and the mindset for it, you should actually try and clear up your UV maps as much as you can, so you can actually work on this. What I'm doing now is I'm working on more details. I wanted to add some gemstones on the actual model, which I then did on this stage. I basically just did the first piece to show, okay, how this is looking with just a bump map, with just a normal map. How do they interact with the object? So you have an idea. This is the actual final form that you also see in the turntable at the beginning and in the render at the end. So if you don't want to watch the rest of this, skip ahead to the end and enjoy the render. But yeah, you can see I'm doing the whole thing with the different kinds of gemstones, and I decided not to smooth these gemstones. In retrospect, this was a bad idea. I should have absolutely smoothed them. I will probably just reload the Hexagon file tomorrow or one of these days and smooth them down, because I've smoothed one of them, and this one is actually the one that looks best. So I try to go for the idea that the gemstones are uncut or rough or very sharply cut actually, but it just didn't come out in the render. What you will see actually is how I apply this gemstony face, which iRay shader I use. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned. It comes. We're going back to their studio again and checking out how to do that. Yeah, applying a few more of the gemstones. You can see that I'm using a very simple plane to just create the shape, form it to the different pieces, and then let it set in. And I really think smoothing this down would have made it look so much better. We will see probably in another render next week when I have worked on this, redid this, and yeah, worked on this. Speaking of next, On the weekend I will do a live stream, or my monthly live stream. I will rig the flamingo from last weekend. So if you're interested in seeing how rigging works live, it's a very tedious thing, you can watch. I will also probably start with the monthly animation then, because I want to include the flamingo and the Amazon warrior. So if you're interested, join me on Sunday. Just keep your eyes peeled. It will be later at the evening in the European time, and I think about noon in American time. I don't have a really specific time set right now, because I just really don't have that set up yet. But yeah, this weekend live stream, 3D content as usual. Yeah. As you can see, I've tried to make the crevice that I tried to emulate with the bump maps earlier now in the 3D model. You can see it in the model, you can't see it as well, or you can still see it, but you can't see it as well in the actual render. But that's fine. It's still good enough, it's still close enough, so I'm really happy with this. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope this teaches you something new and gives you an idea of how to work with everything. Thanks for watching, and stay healthy, stay safe, and I will see you either on the weekend or in the next one.